everybody, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. Super excited for the Wine of the Month Club in September. As you can see, I'm outside because it's nice. And I'm here with my main man, Brandon Warnicki, Director of Operations at Wine Library. And we've got a hardcore red lineup for you this month. As what hat am I even wearing? It's my dad's hat. I mean, all right. I've got a grass and weed cleaner hat on and out here in the country, countrying it up. And let's get right into the first wine that I'm extremely excited about. For all of you that are part of Wine Text, this Gordon Estate Syrah probably really caught your attention on the offer on Monday. Brandon, when are people going to get the wine club?
Late next week.
Good. So this came out on Monday on the on Wine Text, and I'm making a prediction here because we're filming on Saturday before the Monday, but it sold out fast, and there's a reason. Brandon, let's get some data on this wine.
So this is just a great producer based in Washington State, just Columbia Valley. 95 points from Decanter. So obviously thinking about the fall, thinking about slightly cooler weather ahead. A Syrah you can drink now for sure. Not something you need to put away, but it's ideal for near term and drinking spectacular right now. There's actually a very small percent of Cabernet in this, 1%.
This is going to be such a monster win. The initial thought I have about this wine is how oaky it is on the mid palate, which always translates to massive popularity. Huge fruit, blackberry, blackcurrant, silky smooth, cocoa, a hint of chocolate, just explosive stuff. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did.
I'm going to make a quick Instagram story video. Excuse me, everybody on Wine Text. I'm going to keep on Wine Club. Everybody just tasting this for the Wine Club. Holy crap. Just explosive cocoa, blackberry, oaky cream. Just wow. Right. Let's move on to the next wine. Brandon, why don't you set up the next wine?
Sure. So this is a producer in Tuscany. The name of the wine is Mulsine. It's the 2016 vintage. So those of you that have been following some of the vintages recently in Italy are probably well aware that we've had a string of very good vintages. 16 was obnoxious. I mean, literally wherever you went in 16 to spend your hard-earned dollar, you're going to find exceptional value. This one is a blend. It's mostly Sangiovese. It's about 60% Sangiovese. And then there's a few other varietals as well. But this is a really good shining point of the vintage as a whole. Again, drinking now, or you could cellar this as well.
Very solid, aggressive tannin structure. And it was really interesting, Brandon, to piggyback off what you said. This is a wine that when I taste it right now, I literally said to my mind, literally as I was tasting it and you were talking, I said 2016, 16 years. And I was talking about how long I would consider cellaring this. This is so well structured. It's pretty aggressive. I'm popping and pouring. This needs 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of decanting. Like the way I just tasted this wine, many would struggle with how aggressive and tight and explosive it is. So this to me is a heavy decant wine. If not, I would recommend the far majority of you put in your cellar, which is nice because the Gordon Syrah, you can just pop and pour on a Wednesday night with pizza or have on a white tablecloth kind of serious steak dinner. Whereas this Mulsine is very well made. Clean fruit, beautiful, subtle French oak kind of style on the palate, but very tight, high in tannin aggression, at least in a pop and pour. I have not let these wines breathe a lot. So heavy recommendation if you want to drink it now to decant, but probably a wine that you want to put away for at least 5 years and really laugh at what you paid for it if it cost average out $20. Which is really silly thinking about this shot to pop in this Tuscan. Anyway, nonetheless, Brad, the Wine Club's a good deal, man. Like, that's some real talk. Anyway, beautiful wine, very much the kind of wine that I think a lot of Super Tuscan fans will like. And we talk a lot on Wine Text and at Wine Library and on this wine club about trying to find wines that are in the $30, $40, $50 range when these Super Tuscans have now become $150. The Sisicayas, the Celayas, the Tignanellos. Thoughts on the Super Tuscan movement, Brandon?
Thoughts on the Tuscan movement? Is that what you said?
Yeah, just like the current state of Super Tuscan wines.
Yeah.
Like how well do they sell when you get in the hardcore ones that are $100, $200 a bottle?
Yeah, I mean, I think the vintage is big too, right? Because nowadays you're going to see a ton of names and a ton of brands that you might not be familiar with. This actually one, for me, I wasn't familiar with it previously. And they've been making wine for quite a while. The 16 vintage, though, specifically for them, a much bigger, much more complex structure, more so than 15, which was also a really good vintage, but definitely more so than 14, 13 previous vintages. So they really, really shine in these kind of years. Now, flipping the switch to the Chateauneuf de Pape here. So Gabriel Meffray, Chateauneuf de Pape, this is the 17 vintage for them. A little bit of a flip, right? 16 was an epic vintage in the Rhone. 17 was a very strong vintage as well. Not as strong as 16, but very, very strong. The big difference here was that the yields were considerably down. So there's much less wine produced, especially with this. Meffray is traditionally a Negose producer. This comes from several different vineyard sites throughout Chateauneuf de Pape. Blend is standard. It is mostly Grenache, Syrah, a little bit of Mourvèdre. And this one got a 96-point score from Decanter. Quick switch on the Mosine previously was 91 from Suckling and 90 from Galoni as well. This is 96 Decanter. And just, again, a good example of you could say pop and pour CDP, but again, this will age in the cellar for several years as well. And is an indication of just how good the 17s are. A lot of people just bought the 16s. 17s are very, very good too. There's just a lot less of them.
Yeah, I give Chateauneuf de Pape a lot of credit, the region, for having the long-term point of view of the region. So when a vintage like 17 comes across that is not as strong as the prior vintages prior to it, they take the decision. Remember, these are family-owned businesses, and they take the decision to make a lot less wine to hold up the quality. This is an argument that a lot of smart old-school guys taught me back in the 90s about off-vintage wines. Now, 17 in the Rhone is not an off-vintage wine. It's not a crap year. It's I would call slightly above average year, if I'm being unbelievably fair. However, the thing you look for as a wine consumer is, did that region as a whole, and then producer by producer, make a lot less wine to give the quality of other great years, which then becomes our advantage? Or did they make the same amount because they can't afford it and they actually don't care about their brand or the region in the scheme of things, and is willing for the brand to take a hit by putting out something inferior? That, to me, is why this is super neat. I would argue that if we blind tasted the 16 and 17 brown paper bag to 90% of you that are watching right now, you wouldn't know the difference, or half of you would pick the 17. That is our advantage. We don't put the 16 in this wine club because we wouldn't have been able to afford to make the math work. You can't sell below cost in New Jersey as a wine retailer. This is why this wine club is so serious. This is why winetext.com is so serious. We're smart about business and wine, and we make moves like this. And this 2017, I think, encapsulates a lot of the proper strategic wine buying thinking that comes from Wine Library Inc. Brandon?
Agreed. I mean, I'll say also this. You talked about a long time ago, you were talking about different wine regions to jump in value-wise, right? And you were talking about Northern in Piedmont for a long, long time. I'm still a big believer, and Gary will smile a little bit, in Chateauneuf de Pape. But in general, in the top producers, Chateauneuf, when you look at what they're priced at versus the other A-list producers,
I agree.
Or Italy, wherever.
You know what's funny? Me laughing because I always make fun of you that you buy too much Chateauneuf de Pape. I think what I'm really laughing about is another thing, which is the pepper, which, let's get into the wine. This is strawberry and pepper, white flowers, red flowers, very floral, peppery, medium bodied, elegant. What makes me always laugh is I, Gary, the human, am a huge liker of this style of wine. Like, I like this wine more than the prior wine as a human. I know what consumers buy. I know that there's a big group that are going to lose their mind on the Mosine, especially if they're Tignanello drinkers and be like, what the hell? Tignanello costs more than all three of these bottles combined, and I like this as much. So, yeah, it's preferences, but I'm smiling also because I don't disagree with you on flavor profile. I come from a lot of decision-making from a consumer supply and demand lens. And I don't like when we have Chateauneuf Pops sitting in the basement. But to your credit, the last Chateauneuf Pops and wine techs have flown out.
Yeah, I think it's
beautiful 3-pack of red wines for you in September. Little giddy about October. Brandon and I are working on that right now. And a great show. Brandon, I think you brought a really good element to this show. Dustin, don't you think like the Brandon banter has brought a little bit of an element to the show? Even education-wise, that conversation brought a little bit of a depth to the combo.
I think I talked about this time than the last two combined. So give me like 2 or 3 more, and I'll be good, I think.
So what's your thoughts?
I don't know. That's all that stuff sounds too technical for me. I don't know what's going on.
Bring Jeff in here. I know I'm meeting with Jeff right after this for wine buying. Jeff,
you got to turn your camera on, Jeff.
I don't know if Jeff's even there.
He might not be there, actually. He was going to come back to my office. He might be here.
Anyway, there's a make pretend Jeff, and there's a great 3 bottles of wine awaiting you for the month of September. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.